I recently picked up one of the last Famicom games on my to-buy list. It was also one of the last games I've been really interested in, but had never played before. That game is Kaikitsu Yanchimar 3. The Yanchimar series started out as an arcade game, and the NES port of the first game was released in North America as Kid Nicky, while the second and third games stayed in Japan. The first two are very similar in gameplay. They're rather simplistic action games that feel like single-player beat-em-ups with a bit of platforming. The third game, however, is more of a proper fleshed-out platformer where your character has a projectile as his standard attack, and some other neat moves like a wall bound. Kaikitsu Yanchimar 3 was released in 1993, the very end of the Famicom's lifespan, considering the Super Famicom had been out since 1990. This means there will be very few copies around, and if it's even mildly a good game, it's gonna be expensive. A complete copy finally appeared on Yahoo Auctions at a time when I actually had the funds, so I decided, I've got to get this. And I got into a bidding war at the very end, and I knew that the price was going up over what it was really worth, but hopefully you guys know the mindset that takes over you in that situation. You're just like, I'm gonna win this auction and beat you just to show you my dominance. Well, I won Kaikitsu Yanchimar 3 for a lot more than what I had really hoped to pay. To be fair, still less than what they're asking for at retail stores. And it's a good game. It's definitely not bad, but it's not extraordinary. It has that loose, ambiguous hit detection, a lot like Daiku no Gensan 2. In fact, considering they were both made by Irem and both released in '93, I'm guessing they had nearly the same development team. That brings us to the topic of today's video. Harmful Park for the PlayStation. Now, you might be asking, how does everything that I just talked about relate to Harmful Park? Well, the story about Kaikitsu Yanchimar 3 is significant because it's a good demonstration of how sometimes rarity, and even demand, doesn't always match up with quality in gameplay. For those who have never heard of Harmful Park, it's a horizontal 2D shooter for the PlayStation 1 that was only released in Japan. The graphics are really bright and cartoony, even reminiscent of the Parodius games. It looks really unique and detailed with lots of quirky enemies and contraptions, despite being developed by a company no one had ever heard of. Considering the waning popularity of 2D games in the 32-bit era and the fact that it was made by a small company, there were probably very few copies printed to begin with, and as soon as the PS1 could be categorized as retro, Harmful Park became the most expensive game on the system. Now when I say expensive, I mean expensive by PlayStation 1 standards. You have to keep in mind, a huge portion of the PS1 library in Japan is literally worthless. And to be fair, the price of Harmful Park had been the same for many years. No spine card, about $190 or $200. With the spine card, more like between $270 and $300, depending on the mood of whoever was bidding on it at the time. That all changed about a year ago. I remember when one particular copy of Harmful Park appeared on Yahoo Auctions, just under a year ago. It had the spine card with it, but there was a little bit of tape on the spine card, which brings down the value a bit. Now I've never been one to obsess over spine cards, so I figured I would try to get this one and maybe buy it for a little bit less than what a copy with the spine card would usually sell for. To my dismay, it was bid up to $400, and I knew immediately that I was watching a disaster. The game was going through a huge jump in value before my eyes, and I had missed my prior opportunities. Another copy with no spine card came up, and I knew I had to get it before it became completely inaccessible. Well, I won alright, for $290. Now at the time, I was saying to myself, I can't believe I just spent $290 for a copy of Harmful Park. But the good news is, I'm not the loser in this story. Because now, a copy of Harmful Park with no spine card will sell consistently for $370. One copy that was complete with the spine card even got bid up to $650. That is more than twice the price of what it was a year ago. Why would a game that's already so well known suddenly jump so much in price? Simple. it's been plugged on a popular YouTube channel. And now the tens of thousands of people who watch those videos are using proxy services to try and bid on it. Do I have any proof? Of course not. But there's no other reason why. I know for a fact that the game's been heavily praised on the Metal Jesus Rocks channel. And there's just no reason for Japanese gamers to suddenly come in and start paying more for it. They've had access to it the entire time, literally. But I have good news for the other 9,998 of you who weren't able to get a copy of Harmful Park. It isn't a top-class shooter. Not even close. Harmful Park has extraordinary presentation. The graphics, art design, and music are amazing, especially considering that this was a company with little or no experience in game development. But making a great 2D shooter is not something just any group of people can do, and as a shooting video game, Harmful Park doesn't even achieve a rating of average. First of all, the difficulty jumps all over the place throughout the entire game. Level 2 puts you in harrowing situations a couple times, while levels 3 and 4 are largely a breeze. The only thing that makes the game difficult at all is the frequent appearance of enemies that take ages to kill. While you're plugging away at them, the screen gets filled with more and more enemies until you're backed into a corner by a wall of bullets. This is not a skillfully developed shooter by any means. After a run or two through it, you'll easily be able to clear normal mode without continuing, since you'll have memorized where to use your bombs. But on hard mode, enemies take so many hits to kill, it's simply infuriating. It's as if the whole game was just sketched out on paper and programmed as is, with no fine-tuning to find out if this was actually going to make for a fun, playable game. Which is unfortunate, because the ideas themselves are really cool and make for some great artwork. But the gameplay itself is very neglected. The exact same thing can be said for the weapons. You've got a pea shooter, a laser, a pie bomb, I suppose, and a jello homing attack. Sounds really cool as an idea, but 3 out of 4 of them shoot in front of you, so the whole idea of using the right weapon for the right situation just doesn't play out. There is one thing about Harmful Park that may raise the value of the game in some people's eyes. It has multiplayer minigames. Not only can the standard game be played with 2 players simultaneously, there are 3 additional minigames that you can play with your friends. Air hockey, a sort of side-view race game, and an overhead tank battle that can be played with 4 people using the multi-tap. To be fair, it is impressive that they added so much content into a simple 2D shooter. But these aren't going to replace Bomberman, so they're just side dishes, not the main course. If you look at Harmful Park as an overall work of art and not just a game, some people may think that it's worth paying $300 or $400 for. I've owned it for almost a year, and I'm still not sure. The point I wanted to make with this video is, what a YouTuber says about a game is not gospel, no matter how popular their channel is. Myself included. The exact same thing has happened to the price of The Adventures of Little Ralph, the other game that's been heavily praised on the Metal Jesus Rocks channel, so I'm not making this up. And to the people who have recently bought Harmful Park, or more importantly to those who are really thinking that they want to buy it, consider this. Of all those people online who have given rave reviews about Harmful Park, have any of them had to actually pay for it? If not, then their insights are only half the story. Well, I'm not going to sell my copy of Harmful Park just yet. As annoying as it can be, I really want to try to beat it on hard mode, just so I can justify to myself how much money I spent on it. I'm going to sign off for today, guys. Think for yourself, play the games that you love, and please subscribe.